Hi BookTube, welcome to a Sideline video. At this point in December, I'm in the middle of two different books. I'm not ready to say anything about them yet, but that's going to work out fine, actually, because there's a number of different ways I need to have a catch up with you all. Things have happened, good things, but unconnected things, right? Which is why I'm calling this a patchwork video. We are going to cover this scrappy bunch of news in chronological order, in a kind of chronological order. Yes, we need to go back to October. I was still doing my Read What I Own challenge. I had a target of 53 books, and book 53, of course, I reviewed it on the 31st of October, but I actually finished reading it on the 25th. So that meant I had 6 days where I could really do what I liked, provided I didn't buy a book. And I had Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain in mind, but I didn't want to start straight in on that. I could hear my brain kind of asking me quietly, could I have a little break first? and I felt like I was craving something to read that was sentimental, had sentimental value for me, and would just be pure fun. And what I decided on was Star Trek fiction. I had a couple of Star Trek novels on my Kindle app. I think I bought them during COVID lockdown because I bought a lot of things during COVID lockdown. It was a way to pass the time. It was something to do. I didn't have any plan for when I was going to read them. I guess I just thought that was going to happen sometime. The book I chose was Spock's World by Diane Duane. Duane is a very familiar name to Star Trek fans. She's got her own Memory Alpha page. I had to go visit that. And I found out that she's produced tie-in material, not just books. I knew about her books, but also she's done comics and manga. And I didn't read far enough. Heaven knows she's perhaps done scripts. But I was surprised to find out that she was the inventor of the Romulan language. And she did that especially for her 6 Rian Sue novels. Now, for the record, in case you think otherwise, I have never read a Star Trek tie-in novel before. Fan fiction, yeah, but I think that's a slightly different animal. Near, but still slightly different. Spock's World turned out to be exactly what I needed. It was familiar, it was undemanding, and it just gave me 6 days of easy reading. What I was surprised, though, was that the story didn't involve much starship travel or encounters with new forms of intelligent life or battles. The narrative tension all centered around a diplomatic incident, and defeating the main antagonist was done by conducting a lot of research, which seems so strange. And the book also was chopped into, how do I put it? There were 2 stories going on, and they were interwoven with each other. So you would get the diplomatic story in the present, which involved the characters that we're all familiar with from the franchise. And then there was a second story which went deep, far back into the past, and told you about the story of life on Spock's world, on the planet Vulcan. It was the kind of story that really only a novel could do. I don't think it would work on television or in a film. I was surprised that this Star Trek novel, I thought Star Trek novels would be more like the series they tied into. Does that make sense? I really loved Deep Space Nine. That series, I remember, it did have a lot of episodes that focused on diplomatic, interpersonal tensions and dealing with the past. I loved it, but I know some people didn't because they perhaps were thinking more about the original series. And the original series was really like a Western set in space. I think there was as much shooting as there was talking, and sometimes more shooting, right, depending on the episode. It made me wonder, what did other Star Trek fans, the proper fans who read all the tie-in stuff, what did they think of Spock's World? I don't know. I know that I really, really enjoyed myself. So Spock's World, that was a 369-page book. And pages, of course, they matter now. They matter because my reading goals for the next 14 months until the end of December 2025 is going to focus on pages read, not on number of books read. Number of books now just becomes interesting, but not critical. And I want to comment on how satisfying, it's only been 5 weeks, but just how satisfying that change of emphasis has been for me. I keep a record of all my reading on an Excel spreadsheet, right? and I added a column to that spreadsheet where I could keep an up-to-date count of the pages that I have read. And those numbers feed through to a little sort of summary table that measures the progress I'm making toward my overall goals. And I want to show you that, okay? Let me just put it up on screen. Just like that. There we go. So you'll see now at the bottom, yeah, I've recorded the number of books that I finished, which is only 3 in the last 5 weeks. Now, if I were counting the number of books read, this would be a bit of a downer, right? Because in a typical month, I can finish 4 and sometimes 5 books, depending on how long they are. If I was counting books and I had a total to reach, I don't know what I'd set, then I'd be looking at December and thinking, okay, maybe I've got to get tactical now. And instead of reading what I really, really want to read, I've got to try and pick shorter books that, yes, maybe I want to read eventually, but now I'm right away I start thinking of, okay, I've got to keep up my numbers here. I've got to keep up my numbers. I wouldn't have been able to read longer books like Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, because longer books become self-defeating when your goal is measured in books completed. But measuring pages liberates me. That's how I'll put it. In terms of pages, I read 1,577 pages in that 5 weeks. And as you'll see, if you look at the figure in the white box, that 1,286, that is the number of pages I'd have to read every month to get to 18,000 by the end of 30th December 2025. So now I've got a surplus, a page surplus. So wow, it means I could actually be more relaxed in December. If I needed it, I could put up my Christmas decorations instead of reading, for example, which I do need to do. That page surplus, it gives me a break. And whereas the book-driven goal, I never felt I could. I never really felt that I could. And measuring pages, the other thing about measuring pages that is amazing is that I achieve something every time I sit down to read, and not just achieving something when I finish a book. After every reading session, I go to this Excel spreadsheet, I record the pages that I've just read, and then this little table, it updates. The total pages goes up, and more importantly, that lovely percentage goes up. That in red, that 8.76%, that's how far along I already am toward my 14-month, 18,000 page count goal. It's amazing. By measuring pages, I have just made every single act of reading meaningful. And oh, wow, what a shot in the arm that's been. Absolutely. Well, that's definitely made it clear that as far as book goals are concerned, I think it's going to always be page count, and I'm never going to go back again to counting books when I'm setting goals for my reading. Change was a subject of recent tag that I was tagged in. It came my way from Meg at Books Off the Beaten Path. Hi, Meg, if you're watching. And the original tag was created by Jack at Spread Book Joy, and it's called The Evolution of the BookTuber Tag. And basically, I've answered the first question, because the first question was, are there things you used to do on your channel that you no longer do? There we go. We've done that. So we can go straight into question 2, which is about adaptation. And the question is, what things have you done on your channel or as a result of being on BookTube that you never thought you would do? Well, okay, it never occurred to me before BookTube to cut back on buying books. Doing the Read What I Own challenge, that has completely opened my mind to the joys of underconsumption or careful, thoughtful consumption, which I never used to do with books. It was the one thing that my brain would switch off and I would just start pulling them off the shelves or loading up my Amazon cart. And I'll give a really good example. In 2025, I'm going to be participating in a book event hosted by Gareth at Books, Songs, and Other Magic. It's called the Belief and Behavior Bi-Monthly Book Group. I love it. It's BBBB. Knowing me, if this event had happened before I'd done the Read What I Own challenge, I know what I would have done. I would have gone on Amazon without thinking again. I would have bought all 6 books new. No question asked. Now, of course, what I did this time was I did some research. I went to both my county library websites, and sure enough, it looks like I should be able to borrow 5 of the 6 books that Gareth wants to read in that group next year. And the 6th book I already own. So I think it's brilliant. It's given me really great pleasure to think, okay, it's not that I can't spend the money, because I can, but it's just knowing that what I'm waiting to spend my money on is the book that, for whatever reason, the best way for me to get hold of it is to buy it. And I like that. I just love the fact that I'm spending my money with my brain involved. I just think that's been a real great adaptation. So thank you. I suppose thank you to Criminali for coming up with the challenge, because it's a brilliant idea. Brilliant. Tag question 3 is about evolution. So the question is, how has BookTube changed me, and what do I aspire to do on my channel in future? Well, what my viewing figures and the comments are telling me is that viewers seem to like it when I tackle longer works of nonfiction, and then I share my overview of that book over more than one vlog. But also I get higher viewer numbers when I close read Middlemarch, when I do the Middlemarch Meditations by George Eliot. And I've had more than one viewer comment and say that they'd kind of given up on Middlemarch. They'd tried to read it and it's thought, no, not my thing. And now they'd come across my videos and they'd started reading again. And I can't describe how that makes me feel. It's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. So Middlemarch viewers will know that I've decided to increase the number of videos that I make per month and produce two instead of one. I'll get that right. And those are going to come out on the 3rd and 4th Sundays of every month. Question 4. Question 4 of this tag is a bonus question, and it says, can I impart any words of wisdom to all the fledgling booktubers out there? Okay, well, here goes. Fledgling booktubers, say no sometimes. Okay, BookTube it's such an energetic community, and there's people doing all kinds of different things. Watching their content is stimulating, it's very exciting, but it's so easy to overload yourself, but also to borrow somebody else's rules or targets because they sound exciting, and then to feel like a failure just because those particular rules or targets don't work for you. And it's also really easy to spend too much money on books, money that maybe it isn't wise to go there, or to strive to read more books than you would normally, or worse, to strive to read the kind of books you think you should read, whatever on earth those are. The weirdest thing about BookTube, though, is the way that it can, if a person is not careful, it can turn you off reading. And, nobody on BookTube wants that to happen to any other BookTube creator. So say no. Say no sometimes. No is not a negative word. No is a word that protects us. So we say no sometimes. That's it. And finally, before I sign off, I need to say thank you for the support that has recently got the Heather Reads channel over that 300 subscriber mark. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for all the tag invites that I'm not keeping up with, but I'm going to try. I put out a little poll on YouTube. If you've seen it, you'll know that I'm offering to do some kind of thank you video. I'm open. I can do one of those question and answer things if that's what you want. I'm not wild about them because I can never think of questions myself, so it seems rotten to ask other people to think of questions. And so I'm fine if you don't want to do that. I've also said, what about a short form biography, or do you want a bit of both? Or do you just want me to carry on making my usual material? I mean, if that's what you guys want, I'll do it. I don't care one way or another. I'm going to leave a few days just for the responses to trickle in, and then I'll let you know the result on Sunday. Okay, it's time to wrap up. Happy reading, everybody, during December. Take care. Bye-bye.